And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Put your thumbs up and say it's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, Tickety Boo, everything's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, son. Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tickety Boo. I'm here with Iona and Ian, and today we're talking about 3 questions that have a way of rearranging the way that you see your life. Not to judge it, just to look at it with a maybe a more honest lens. These questions won't give you answers, but what they will do is strip away the stories we tell ourselves about why things are the way that they are. We're going to get into the questions, right? And I'll say this first. These aren't the kinds of questions you answer right away. They're the kind that sort of stop you in your tracks and make you think. I think with these questions, if you answer them straight away, you're not answering them, you're not experiencing the question. So the first question is, if money wasn't a factor, how would your life and work change?
Right. I can answer that.
Can you?
Yep.
Okay.
But at the moment, from where I am in life, I'd say not too much. Well, it would be less stressful if money wasn't a factor, because through the nature of some of the different work I do, it's always, any business, it's cash flow. But from a personal point of view, money is not my primary driver. And I've just said this in a previous episode. It's about freedom of choice. And I've got to a point where I've got freedom
of choice.
and choices, and I enjoy making those choices.
I fell into the trap of completely believing that once financial pressures ease, that life would massively change. And it does, but not always necessarily in the way that you think it does. You know, we think that if we have a certain amount in the bank, that a lot of the stuff we feel and experience tends to go away. The one thing, I'm totally with you, by the way, the one thing I've learned is that money doesn't buy us happiness. Mm-hmm. It does give us options. And people roll their eyes when I say it can buy you time. And what I mean by that is you can afford to pay people to do things that you don't want to do, which means you can go and do things. But it doesn't create this, oh, I've arrived type feeling. It wears off quite quickly. In fact, I would go as far to say some of the happiest points in my life are when I've had the least.
Yeah.
And I think if we take this on like the next level, like if we go deeper down, if we take the option of got to make the money, got to make the mortgage, got like all those things we think we need to and have to do. Yes, you've covered a lot of the core aspects of that. If we're starting to not think about we need these things and we need the money, then we start to maybe reflect on what our values are, what we want to do, what's important to us. So we then can start to look at creating a life that's based on our values. And if we think about it, so many of us end up running around. We've talked about being busy, but doing the things to have the things that we can have that the safety and the security. Yes. However, how about if we look at it, if somebody from the outside, let's say an alien from outer space, was looking at what we're actually doing, spending all our time doing, what is it they actually think we care about? What would they think is important to us?
Well, yeah, I think sometimes the story we tell ourselves is that money is the very thing that's keeping us busy. But actually, if you're brutally honest, it's normally habit that's keeping us busy. So, you know, money isn't always the cage. It's the cover story that we use to kind of keep us always on. I mean, let's be honest. How many people do you think would stay busy if money wasn't an issue?
Most. I think in reality, most.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're going away from the point that some people, a lot of people are struggling, and they just need to do what they do for money just to get themselves by. There's no excess.
Yeah.
But definitely, some of the happiest people I know are in reality, if you was to put them in a chart, they'd probably be classed as deprived. But they've got great family connections, great friendships.
I had a great aunt and uncle who were more like a sort of nan and granddad figure to me, and they lived really simple lives. You know, he worked at the Austin and she worked there in the sewing department making the seat covers. They had a nice little flat. They had a little car. They went camping. They had a very simple life. And, they didn't have a lot of money, but they had enough money to live a fairly simple, happy life. From the outside in, you're like, how lovely.
Yeah.
And there wasn't additional complications in their life, and
But all their well-being needs are getting met.
Yeah,
Great relationships, satisfied with work, the community, belonging, having a purpose, and bringing meaning to their lives.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be about the big things, having the biggest impact, changing the world. It can be doing life beautifully and brilliantly in your own way and being present. That's
I sometimes look at people. I'll either read about them or I meet them, and I just think to myself, God, you're doing life really well. You've tapped into the secret source, and so I almost want sometimes to go, you're doing really well, but I don't want to pat and interrupt it. I'm just stay in your lane. You're doing it so well, because like for me, I feel my life is like, I feel like I've done life well, but I've done it the harder way. Some people just seem to fall into a rhythm and do it. So like if my life was a flight to New York, we would have had heavy turbulence for 7 hours of the flight.
Yeah.
If you get what it's an analogy. And some people just look at them and go like, wow, you're just acing it. And they haven't made it about money, they just made it about living. So it's a big question. The second question I'd like to ask is, would your current self be a role model to the younger you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And also because it's not about perfection. We've talked about it's the lessons, and everything I've learned has gotten me to where I am now. My values, coming from a place of integrity, kindness. Like, I'm living life by my values, and I don't think I did when I was younger because of all those other beliefs that we have talked about in other episodes. But yeah, definitely 100%.
I would say yes and no. I think my younger self would look at me and go, admire me for my drive, for my resilience, and where I've achieved things in my life I never thought I would ever achieve. But they would probably also sit in there going, why does everything have to be done at full crank, and why do you rip the arse out of life all the time? Where's the fun?
Yeah.
Where's the lightheartedness? Because there's this quiet self-expectation that I've placed upon myself that I should be able to handle more than most people. Excuse me, but the cost is that I don't always give myself the same sort of softness and kindness that I give to others. And I think that's what maybe the younger one would say, I'm a bit tired of watching you push yourself past your limits.
So do you think that your younger self would like hearing what you say to yourself as you are now? Like,
I think it's it's good you can see it.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. It's like, I think quietly they'd probably be relieved that I've started to value peace in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm putting peace above progress. And that's been to be honest, for me, that's been a long time coming. And I think that's probably the biggest mantra for me that will come from this batch of episodes: peace versus progress.
It just slows it down. It's
Peace is
It's
progress.
a golden nugget, that one.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're talking about would you be a role model to your younger self? For me, absolutely yes. But for you, do you think it depends on what version of yourself you went back to? I.e., that person that was struggling, full of anxiety, and you were crippled up in pain. But then if you could go back to that person and say to that person that was suffering, could barely get out of bed, was in a terrible way, couldn't leave the house, and you could go back and say, not only are you going to figure this out, you're going to help all these other people.
Oh, yeah. But that would be me going back with wisdom. But if the younger person was watching what I do some of the time, they'd be like, hang on a minute. Have we not figured this out? Have we not stopped battering ourselves and overthinking and overworking and, killing ourselves? So yeah, if they watched a week of my life in certain episodes, they would be noticing like, wow, like, you are really pushing hard and taking a lot on and, maybe you need to back off a little bit of time. But I'd also think, we're like, wow, look what we've achieved. Look how far we've come. Look how we've grown. It's not about perfection, because you never get to that place.
It's quite funny because, do you know, when we say do as I say, not as I do,
Yeah.
what we're asking is, would we go back to our previous version and not do as we say, but actually do as we do now?
Yeah. I think they, that younger version, I think, would be quietly concerned that at times you don't look after yourself as much as you should do. And actually, when you're young, you don't think about, ripping the backside out of life, do you? And burning, constant stress and overwhelm. Because one of the phrases we used a lot in the last few episodes is space and capacity to create peace. I always thought I had this overwhelming capacity to just take on more and more and more and more. And now you're like, nah, don't want it. Put it down. I think that's really important.
From the point of view of making an active contribution to the world, feeling good about myself, nice relationships, generally good work ethic, generally balanced work ethic at times. I think I've got that side of stuff done. Where I think when I sacrificed massive chunks of my 20s, that I had amazing experience. I had my kids, I social exposure, I had loads of cool stuff. But there was massive chunks of my late 20s and my entire 30s that I sacrificed pushing for success. And as it goes, if I'd have just done it a lot smarter, I wouldn't have had to put half of that effort in. So looking back, if I'd like to try and set an example to my old self, am I doing that differently now? I say that I am, but in reality, I think if you step back and look back at me, I am still pushing pretty hard.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing here, isn't it? Being able to look at it, yes and no. I mean, I think, because obviously we know each other really well, I think neither of the younger version of us would, if we went back to them and went, by the way, when you're knocking on the door of 50, this is what you're going to achieve, we would have just rolled around laughing. And we're kind of
Yeah, definitely.
never would have been able to comprehend, the levels that we've been able to get to.
I knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
But
did you believe?
I never really believed I'd entirely get there. So, So, especially with the lack of progress that I was making, no matter how hard I worked, that is how it felt.
Yeah.
But then we got to a point where, going off topic a little bit, where we'd finished a big project, and me and Lou, we looked at each other. Well, I approached Lou and I said, look, right, okay, I cannot be in that state for the rest of my working life. I am literally on my knees. And I was just starting to breathe. The world had come off my shoulders. And I said, if money wasn't a primary driver, what would you do? She says, I love making clothes. Seamstress. She'd done it at college. She'd done it loads for friends. So now she has another business as well as assisting me.
She's really good at it.
Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah.
Bridesmaids' dresses, making clothes. And she does it because it's something that she wants to do and she loves to do.
Yeah.
At that time, I said, I want to help people. I understand. You'd helped Louise get out of her issues with just one session over Zoom and some recordings, which literally brought her back into, a functional world. And I was intrigued, and it fitted in with my core ethics of wanting to help people. So I said, I want to go into therapy. So that's what I do. That's what I love to do, and I'm here by choice. And that's the thing.
Do you think in some kind of ways, I think we could all probably say we're accidental therapists. Yeah.
Didn't we talk about that on the weekend with Phillipson?
Yeah, we're accidental therapists. Do you think in some ways, maybe in an unconscious level, we don't even really think about it, we're trying to go in others, install things that we wished we had installed.
Oh yeah,
in ourselves. I mean, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with that because it'll be a massive episode. But you get kind of what I'm saying.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, question 3. You ready?
Okay.
What do you deeply regret, and what would you do differently?
I have 2 answers to this.
Okay.
I don't regret anything because everything I've done has made me who I am.
Yeah.
There are some things I wish I'd done differently, like some of my parenting. I wish I'd spent more time asking my mum and my dad questions, and my brother, those three are all deceased. So there's things I wish I'd done differently, but do I have regret? No, because regret keeps me in the past, and I've learned so much from all the things I could have done better, like the way I parented. But yeah, no, I don't have regrets.
What about you, Ian?
My regret, even though this led to something that went catastrophically wrong at the time, but then our world has become better off the back of it. But for me, it was always about pigeonholing myself as a provider. This is one answer. I pigeonholed myself as a provider in my family, and then because I was so focused on being provider and protector, I lost sight of some of the emotional support that I should have been giving before Lou got ill. That was something that I've never come to terms. I've always carried a level of guilt for that. But off the back of that, she's a different person. She's, a massively improved version of what she was. I've learned a lot about myself. The other regrets are things that I said to my dad or didn't say to my dad that now in my older years I relate to it, and it's just like a light bulb. My kids will do something and then the light bulb goes and I'm just like, I'm absolutely with him, but I didn't get it at the time. But he's no longer here, so I now can't have that conversation.
Well, that's the thing with regret, isn't it? It's not so much about what we did or what we didn't do, it's what we avoided.
Yeah. And from that aspect then, can we not look at if using regret as a compass of maybe where we weren't truthful, we weren't working on our relationships? Like, I think that's like, if we look at regret as a compass, so as much as I say I have no regrets, there's things I would do differently, like talk to my dad and ask more questions.
Well, regret is the price that we pay for wisdom.
Yeah.
So
There is no wisdom without regret.
Yeah.
There can't be. That's not how it works. We want to skip the discomfort, though, to get to the knowledge.
And it wasn't about kind of doing something wrong or bad intention.
Yeah.
And looking back, though I might feel guilt or just think, I wish I never did said that. I just wish. The reality is I was working with who I was at the time,
Yeah, and I think
which
that's-
was a very unevolved version.
And I think that's why I can say I don't have regret, because that was then, this is now, and the lessons we've learned.
There's grief in realising you didn't know then what you know now.
Yeah. And it was only, obviously Dad was just in a different chapter of the book, but now I was approaching the ages where we had the age he was when we had these conversations, and now I've got the same life experience.
It's going to make it
Then
sense.
I'm going, yeah, I get it. I get it.
I think we have to use.
Absolutely.
I think we have to use regret as information, not as a form of punishment against ourselves. Because the one thing that I've learned over all of the years is that, and I was talking about this with somebody yesterday actually on a course. When we're in places of despair, discomfort, anxiety, overwhelm, whatever it is, we do not operate sometimes in the best of ways. We don't make good decisions. We think, feel, and behave differently. And we can't, or we shouldn't judge ourselves on snippets, highlight reels of the years versus actually how much physical time there is over that whole period. It's very easy to go back to singular points in time and judge yourself off those singular points of time. And if you're going to judge someone by their past, I think you need to take a look at yourself, because judgment is one of those things where we lean into them, what they did, what they didn't do. You're not really taking a look at yourself. And I think that's one thing that people don't want to do. They don't want to take personal responsibility. They just want to point a finger. And it's actually a two-way thing. In whatever the situation may be, there's learning both ways.
Yeah, there's always learning accountability.
Absolutely. So, this is not about beating yourself up. It's actually about listening.
Yeah.
Listening to yourself and learning.
Definitely.
And allowing that to sink in. Well, I think 3 questions you can come back to and reflect on, and your answers will probably change. But that wraps up this episode of Tickety Boo. As always, we really appreciate you watching and listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
If you or someone close to you needs to access mental health support, please contact your GP, or if it's out with normal office hours, get in touch with NHS 24 on 111. Alternatively, contact the Samaritans on 116 123. All calls are free of charge from any phone. You can also find more support information on the Tickety Boo website, ticketyboopodcast.co.uk.